You're watching the latest in the series of New Age Business Briefings brought to you by the SABC and sponsored by ESCOM today. And today, the topic of discussion and debate is radical economic transformation. What does it mean? How is it going to change your life? Is it a radically new thought? Or is it old thoughts, perhaps dressed in different clothings? We have a panel here that started to explore this idea. We've also got a studio audience, and we're looking forward to hearing your thoughts. Hashtag TNA BizBrief, that's B-I-Z, at Morning Live SABC, just to get what your thoughts are on this very important topic of discussion at this time. All right, just before the break, I think, Chris Hart, you might have felt provoked a little bit by Mzwanele. What are your thoughts on what he was suggesting?
Well, first of all, the words put in my mouth, as I say, often inferred because I'm an old white male. I think the whole question of a massive expansion of the economy means that the solution to our economy lies in what does not exist rather than what exists. What exists already as what we look at. And that's, as human beings, it's the easiest thing to see. And you can say, point out, what you're looking at is not our solution. It's what needs to come into existence that is our solution, right? And that must involve the ownership of businesses by black people, okay? I at no point think that this should be a white-driven thing, okay? It's important that that's happening, but we need to learn the right lessons. Is that accumulation of capital is through savings. It's not monopoly. White monopoly capital is a bull dust term, okay? Because what is a monopoly? There are no private sector monopolies, right? There are none, all right? Monopoly is a single operator in a thing. In fact, even in the state-owned system, ESCOM is described as a monopoly. It's not. There's independent private producers, which are alternative producers of power. They are a monopoly distributor. But the number of monopolies in this economy is limited. But we need a massive expansion of this particular economy. And that means we need to inculcate a much higher level of savings at individual level. Okay. One statistic I find baffling is 3% of the JSE is owned by black people. If you're referring to is that, as you know, 64% of all statistics are made up on the spur of the moment. If that's the case, is that direct ownership, then does that imply 97% is owned by whites? Where does the PIC come in, which is already, is that less than 3%? Just as a single pension fund that is enormous. A lot of statistics that are here need to be verified. We repeat a lot of stuff over and over again that doesn't, that simply are not grounded in any reality itself. So we need to actually look at, we need to appreciate that since certainly 1994, the workplace is very, very different to what it was in 94. In fact, 94 was already very different to what it was in 1980. That changes have been taking place and that progress has been made. But not sufficient progress has been made. We do not, for people who are excluded from this economy, nothing has changed. That's what their big gripe will be. And we need to appreciate that. We can sit here very comfortably. This is a lovely venue. We're in a very privileged position, all of us. Right? If you're excluded out from this economy, the situation is dire. Right? And we need to solve that as a problem. Okay? Unemployment needs to be our single biggest priority. Economic transfer is not a solution because there's not enough to transfer to solve that problem.
So just to get clarity, when you say economic transfer, are you saying there's a company and you're issuing shares from previously white owners to black owners? Is that what you mean?
And instead of a white managing director, you now put a black managing director. All right. So what you're describing is a zero-sum game. If you've got a static economy, for somebody to enter the economy, somebody has to leave. Right, that's not a solution. We need a solution for 12 million jobs that need to be created to be a solution.
Okay.
Right. That is critical, and for that you need an enormous amount of capital. We do not have enough, and our tax system is diabolical for our needs because we are taxing seeds, effectively eating seeds rather than actually building it. We're wondering why we're not getting harvests while we're actually consuming our capital.
All right. Ryan, a quick comment, and then Mzwanele, and then we'll go to the floor.
I'm afraid I don't agree with my colleague at all here. There are definitely monopolies. First of all, radical economic transformation.
Name one.
I'll be with you in a second. Radical economic transformation should be a program, should be a government-driven program with the assistance of private sector to expand our economy for the benefit of the greater population of South Africa, not the minority. In terms of monopolies don't need to be, by definition, doesn't have to be a single.
It is definite. That is the definition.
One can collaborate to create a monopoly. If you just look at the auditing firms, 4 auditing firms dominate the industry. Where are the black accountants? Where are new firms? Why is government not using smaller firms to do their auditing? It doesn't have to be dominated by these large, these are large.
You've mentioned an important point there, and I think Mzwanele also touched on it earlier. Who's stopping this? You know, no one is forcing government to hire white lawyers. It's not compulsory, but they're hiring white lawyers often. So who's stopping it? When we say radical economic transformation...
Let me explain to you.
Yeah.
You see, at a technical level, Chris is correct when he talks about mono meaning one single.
Yeah.
But here's the issue. We're talking actually about oligopolies. But you see, these oligopolies they operate in a monopolistic manner because we've got bank oligopolies. But because they are operating as one, as bank, as a monopoly, as sort of also a cartel, that's why we call them white monopoly capital, because they're largely owned by white people in any case. So you can go sector by sector, go to the steel industry, you'll find the same. Go to the fuels, I mean in the fuel space, who competes with Sasol? And so on. So there's a technical term is oligopolies, but in the manner in which they operate as monopolies. And I think this issue of saying if you replace black with white and whatever, this is another very, surreptitious attempt to continue to have an untransformed economy. No. If you were to take a black, if you were to put a black into a position which he was not in yesterday, immediately that black family life changes. If you were to take a black owner who was not a black owner before, the whole village life changes. So there's no truth in this thing of saying if you replace black with white, what's the difference? Fundamental difference. Immediately in Orange Farm, they have a director, and immediately that family is sorted, so to speak. How many more families can be sorted if you were to do that kind of put blacks in places where they are not? It's not either or, it's both. Yes, you must not just limit it to that. You must also create new ones as well. So it's not either or, it's both. But the whole notion of trying to say, let's just leave this thing and start our own thing. What is this own thing? The whole market is sewn up. When you look at the banking, the big five have taken over. When you look at the construction sector, another big five has taken over. I've already mentioned Sasol has taken over, owns 95% of the market. When you look at the wood and paper, 2 companies, Mondi and Sapi, own like 90% of that market. So what is left for black people is just to be events managers, security companies, deliver flowers, stuff like that.
Don't the pension funds own those companies as well?
You see, this. Let's get this right.
Yeah.
The whole thing about the ownership, and people talk about pension funds, talk about PIC, etc. They talk about BE and what have you. Those are mandated investments, and as a unit trust holder or whatever of that insurance company or premium payer, you don't sit in the AGM of those companies and direct which way those companies should go. You have no say on the destiny of the economy of this country. This is the issue. of those BE companies, it's important to understand when you say BE, some companies are just 10% owned, but they're called BE. And what have you. So what we talk about is the actual black even within the BE.
Okay.
This is the issue. So you may be BE, but the actual black in that BE may be 10, maybe 5, maybe whatever. So when we say 3%, we are specifically talking about the black component. And that black component is 3%, in fact, even less
Right.
actually.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. After that, we're going to hear from Tebogo Statu and others, and you as well at home. Again, I keep hearing what it should be, what it ought to be, and I'd like to now get a clarity on the definition of radical economic transformation, because it's doing the rounds at the minute, and I'm not quite sure what it is.